to share my first ever episode with you all. I created Dancer Talks as a way for dancers to connect, share stories, and information. Our first ever episode is with Florrie Geller. She's a dear friend of mine and an incredible dancer with an amazing story. She danced with Cincinnati Ballet and now is dancing with the United Ballet Theater in the upcoming season. I'm so excited to share her story and for you guys to listen to it. I hope you enjoy.
How are you doing during this whole pandemic? Like, what's your life been like, and how are you holding up, especially with dance classes and keeping in shape?
Well, I'm going on week 8 of not leaving this apartment because my whole family is high risk, and so we have not been going out at all. I've been getting groceries delivered to the apartment. So I'm in Savannah, Georgia right now, and it's 500 square feet with 3 cats and a dog. So I've been tuning into Worldwide Ballet class like every single day on Zoom, which is San Francisco ballet dancers Diego Cruz and also Ruben Martin host this Zoom class every day around the world to like 180 some dancers tune in, and there's amazing teachers, world-class teachers from all over who teach for the class, and they have ballet and point and hammer garage workout, so hard. So I've been doing that. I've been doing quite a bit of Pilates. Actually, I feel like I haven't ever done this much Pilates in my life. I have a little mini elliptical which broke while I was on it, so that was
What?
really
Wait, what? How did it break?
thing, but it was like really cheap on Amazon, and yeah, I guess I don't know if I was going too fast for it or something, but I was making my way, and then all of a sudden one of the legs just like falls off.
Oh no.
And there was this big crash, and my dad, he's a professor at Savannah College of Art and Design, and so he was teaching his class while this was happening, and there was like, this big crash. And he was
Are
like,
you okay?
yeah, I'm fine. I mean, it could have been bad. I was like, wow. And I just kind of stood there for a moment. So we tried fixing it again, like tightening up something. I don't know what it was. And then the same thing happened again, except I caught it. Like I looked down. I was like, this feels weird. And I looked down and it was like falling off. So I saved myself that time. But I guess the elliptical company is sending a new elliptical. So at some point
That's
that will
good.
arrive and I'll be able to get back on there. So right now cardio is difficult to fit in, but I've been doing the garage hammer workouts, which are so hard, but they're so good. Oh my God.
I know. I did one, and my legs were so sore the day after.
So sore. Oh gosh. It's the only workout I cry in. Like I actually cry at a certain point. And Lisa is who owns a garage. She is insane and ripped and does not stop at all. It's just so high intensity. We used to do it in San Francisco. We had it once a week. It was for an hour though. So we did like a half-hour cardio and then a half-hour strength training. So it's kind of like now she does it like she incorporates cardio and then like dynamic abs and then squats and stuff. Like they kind of alternate, but when we did like a half an hour of just cardio, like running, jumping,
Wow.
kind of rhythmic stuff, and then we'd go on the floor and do stuff. So that was tough because right after, like 10 minutes after, we had ballet class, and I couldn't. It was bad. We were just,
I feel like
it was
the
not
usual. After I work out or run or anything, I have to take at least 30
good.
minutes because my legs are
Yeah,
all.
it was really aching, and I think that was like a time where that day of the week we had to do all of class on point. I always remember feeling like a jellyfish. It was so bad,
At least
but it
you're.
was a great workout. I mean, I felt so good. Like it's awesome. And when she would come in and teach it a few times, and oh my gosh, she's crazy. She's amazing. It just like it's so inspiring. Even like it conveys on the Zoom like workout, but in person, it's wild. So that's really, I love that. but those have been my kind of main workouts. There's also this YouTube channel I found, really random, called Train Like a Ballerina.
Oh, I love that.
I love them. It's so fun. And it's cool because you can just kind of put together your own little, like, okay, here's a like 8-minute ab workout. Here's like an 8-minute butt workout. Here's like stretching or whatever. So doing that. And then also my flexi stretcher, because
That's amazing. I did your class, and I must say, thank you. It feels so good.
I love it. It's interesting because a flexi stretcher has, people think about it and they think of standing there with their leg up, like an a la seconde, and just working on, like, literally just working on, like, développé side, or doing, like, a planche stretch. But there's so much active stretching and strengthening exercises and Pilates exercises that they're like reformer exercises that you can do. So I mean, now I was teaching it on my Instagram. Now I teach it on the Cincinnati Ballet Academy Facebook page, live Facebook page, because it was a little easier to coordinate, and it can save on their page indefinitely. And like on my Instagram, it couldn't. So there were students who couldn't make it, and it was only available for 24 hours. But I was telling my students last week how important it is to do active stretching, because I think one of the things you feel a lot of pressure on as a dancer is that flexibility. And I know when I was around 13, 14, I just thought, okay, well, I'll get flexible by spending an hour in an oversplit like that. And so I actually did that. And I was never so tight as I was when I did that. Because it's just like you have that instant feeling afterwards of like, ooh, look at me, I'm so flexible. And then it goes away and you're just so sore and in so much pain and your muscles get tighter. So flexi stretcher is awesome because it's that dynamic stretching and you're like activating muscles and releasing them. And that release is where your leg can, or whatever you're stretching, finds that flexibility, but it's safer too, because you're like warming up your muscles. So I was telling them that. I thought it was really important to tell them that because, I mean, you're at home, you're like, here, I can do my homework and sit in a split, which, I do that sometimes, but,
Yeah, I've been feeling like active stretching is the key, honestly, even in these times, because we're just sitting around all day. Well, like if you're not doing classes, you're not walking to around New York City or around Cincinnati or Savannah. You're just in your house and you can't really move a lot. So stretching actively is the key. Because if you're stretching passively, it's not going to be as effective to lengthen or anything because you're not
right. And those exercises, like when I'm teaching that class, I also sometimes I feel like kind of out of breath because it is a little bit, isn't this more dynamic? It's not a lot of cardio, but there's some more cardio element. I think especially when you're nonstop talking too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to do as much as I can. It's tough. I know that I think for everyone, it's going to be a bit of an adjustment to get back in the studio whenever that happens. But I think we're all in the same boat. I mean, like, unlike when you have an injury and you're out for a long period of time, you feel like that time catching up to you. And when you go back, it's a struggle. But now we're all in that position. Everyone's in that position to some degree. So I think, we're all in this together. That's why I love like the worldwide ballet class, because there is a great sense of community with it. And when I first got into quarantine, I first got here, like I didn't have a Zoom ballet class. So I was doing like my own bar, or watching some like pre-recorded bars like on IGTV, which are great. But still like the Zoom class, there's so much more a community. And so suddenly like there are people from all over who you see every day in the class and they feel like your classmates.
Yeah.
So it's been really nice, and it's weird because I don't know, before I'm not a homebound person at all. Like I don't like being at home at all, and I go crazy if I stay at home for a long period of time. But throughout this whole time, I haven't felt like that, because I just feel very grateful to be able to shelter safely with my family. And I feel like there's so much to do in a day, and now that I have this time to be at home, I still don't have enough time to do what I want to do each day. Like I'm still at the end of the day like, oh my gosh, it's 7:30 and what happened? So I don't know. There's just so much, I guess, when you're in this situation, you just have to use your imagination. I don't know, but I feel like I'm in so many different places, even in 500 square feet. It's like my studio, the cafe, the academic classroom, the anything, the book you're
Gym.
reading. Yeah, the gym, all of it. Netflix, um, all those stuff. So I've also been taking 2 college classes online. I had been, because we, with the American Guild of Musical Artists Union, we can get our associate's degree for free. And so that's a feature and a benefit that I had my eye on for a long time, but I never really felt like I had enough time. It was always kind of like, oh, well, next semester I'll sign up. Next semester, oh, it's just really busy right now. I don't have time. But now it's like, you have the time to do it. So I got started on doing that, which has been fun. I'm almost done with my first semester. They're like 8-week semesters. So that's been interesting. I've been taking an electronic commerce class and a marketing class, which, I mean, they have points of kind of becoming very intertwined. And so it gets a little bit, at certain points in the course, a little bit repetitive, sometimes a little confusing. Some of it's more in depth than others. But it's been very interesting. So I feel like I've learned a lot. But next semester, or I guess June 1st, I will do an English and college math class, because I haven't done math in so long.
Math.
I don't know. Scared. I would be like, but it'll be good. It'll be fun.
Wait,
I always loved math.
math is great, but like back in the day when I was in school, they're like, you're not gonna have a calculator when you're in these situations, like when you're at a restaurant or when you're at the grocery store. And then they came out with the iPhone and it has calculator.
I like I have, and you're like, I have it on my watch too.
Yeah, but it's really
No.
it's really good to know math.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
if you don't know the angles, if you
No,
don't know basic how to do a tip or things,
it's it.
it's really important.
It's really, it is.
Keeps the
It'll
mind
be
going
fun.
too.
It's a puzzle. It's just, since it's been a long time, will be a lot of review math. But
Yeah.
I'm sure it will. I don't know what it'll be like. I don't really know where they're going to start. But I'm excited, because once I get into it, I enjoy math very much.
Yeah.
I remember one summer I was at the SAB summer course, and I did all of, what was it, like Algebra 1 in 5 weeks, like
Wow.
in the summer course. It was just like after class, or like between class, like on the lunch break, I would sit in the locker room and like eat my lunch and then do my algebra. And I remember feeling so accomplished. I was like, this is great. It was fun.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's been a while since I've done math. My goodness.
Speaking of younger days, what was
Mhm.
your training like?
My training. So I went when I was 10 years old to Pennsylvania, to Central Pennsylvania Youth Ballet. I started, well, I'll go back to the beginning. When I started when I was 5, we lived in Rhode Island, and my parents taught at Boston University. And I started in the creative movement class at Boston Ballet in their Newton program. And then we moved to Savannah when I was 6 years old. And I took class at various little schools in Savannah. But the dance scene is rather recreational. And there are a lot of dancers from Savannah who have become professional dancers. But they've all gone somewhere else to get their training at a certain point. So when I was 9 years old, I went to the ABT Young Dancer Workshop, and I saw that a lot of the really good dancers at the summer workshop all had CPYB water bottles and t-shirts. And I was like, what is CPYB? So I went and looked it up. I told my mom, I was like, these really good people have a CPYB t-shirt. And so we looked it up, and I went there the next summer. So I went to see they have a June series that occurs, and all of the incoming summer students go to see the June series before the summer program actually starts. And I knew that the older dancers were going to be really strong, but the curtain opened and they were all tiny little 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds who were incredible, just so technically precise, so turned out, so just everything was in the perfect position. And I was shocked. And I looked at my parents and I'm like, this is wild. So I did my placement class the next day and was put in the lowest level you could be in. And, it was fine because it was wonderful. I was in the barn, which is the notorious barn where it all begins with Marcia Del Weary and other CPYB faculty. And it was really a major eye-opening experience because it was just, didn't know. I felt like I went in my first class, I did not know anything. And just when you do an arabesque or a tendu to the back, how your heel doesn't stick up in the air, but it goes to the floor. And I didn't know that. And, they're very much, they kind of exaggerate some of the corrections. So they say you do arabesque, your knee looks to the ceiling. And it just gets you to obviously your knee can't look to the ceiling, but it gets you to really rotate out your leg. And that's something that those kinds of teaching methods are things I use when I'm teaching now to help students do it, because they don't know the intricacies of you use this little muscle rotates here and you do that blah, 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 blah. But they can understand that basic process, that action of oh, I'm going to try to get my knee to look up to the ceiling. So it was insane that summer. It was absolutely amazing. And then after it, I went back to the ABT Young Dancer Summer Workshop again. And that year was the first year they were opening up the JKO school to a younger age group. And they asked me to stay for the year-round program. And I thought that was awesome. I was really excited about it, but I went to my parents and I said, you know what? I think the only reason they noticed me was because I went to CPYB for the summer. So I need to go to CPYB. So they were like, okay, Florrie, well, you're 10, but we'll let you do that. So my mom went with me and I went to CPYB. We moved to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, danced 7 days a week. It was a lot. They had 3, 4, 5 technique classes a day. Which, I don't know, I could not do that now. But when you're young, you just do it. It's fun. We on Saturdays would dance from 9 to 7:30, and it was just a party.
Are there different teachers in the classes?
There were. And that was one of the really, really cool things was we had many different teachers, and they all they would follow the CPYB method, but there were teachers who were on various kind of spectrums of that method. So it wasn't strict Vaganova, but we would have more Vaganova-ish teachers, more balancing-ish teachers, teachers that would work more on jumps in their classes, teachers who would work more on turns in their classes. There's a lot of variety. And I think that's one of the really exciting things too, is because you're constantly moving from class to class. And, you know, I started all over again because I had gone on point right when I turned 10 when I was in Savannah. And when I went to CPIB for the summer, they took me off point. But then back in the year, I went back on point. And it was, I mean, it was wonderful. It was a lot. And I'm so grateful that I was able to train with Marcia Dilweary and have that time. Like she would teach on Sundays. It would just be Marcia. She was the only person who taught on Sundays. And it was such a special time. Not everybody went to Sunday class. She had to invite you to go to Sunday class.
Wow.
But it was so beautiful, such a beautiful experience. And so then I was there at CPIB from 10 to 13. And then I had to move back closer to home in Savannah because my family had some health issues and I needed to be, because Carlisle, Pennsylvania was a 2-day drive from Savannah. And so I needed to be in the kind of vicinity to Savannah. So I went to Next Generation Ballet in Tampa, Florida. And one of the reasons I went there and why that was one on my list of like places that I should go and consider going was because they had a faculty member who is from CPYB. And I actually, I had her my first summer. She used to teach at CPYB and then she moved to Florida. And the school has a great deal of respect for CPYB. So I went to Next Generation Ballet. Peter Stark was the director. And I was there for, goodness, I went there right when I turned 14. And I was there for the remainder of that year and then another year after that. And then so we did in Tampa, their Performing Arts Center is where the Next Generation Ballet is located. It's part of the Patel Conservatory for the Arts. So there's music and drama and dance. And so they're in this arts conservatory that's connected to this huge arts complex that's right on the riverfront. It's so beautiful. Oh, it just, thinking about it makes me so happy. It's just like palm trees and sunny and heavenly. And so Youth America Grand Prix goes and has their Tampa location is at the Straz Center, which is where we are. So a lot of us did YAGP. And I mean, at CPYB, you don't do competitions. So I just thought, well, you know, it's here, they're doing it, and it's at the theater, and it's not, the coaching for it doesn't take away from our training, it adds to our training. So any coaching session is going to be on a lunch break. It's not going to interfere with what we're doing. So I did it just for fun, just for the performing experience. And it was, I mean, the coaching session, I think I would have like 2 15-minute coaching sessions a week. So it's not like, wasn't, you know, a huge amount of like crazy competition preparation. Yeah. But it was really, really, really awesome. And I did the regionals, made it to the finals, and then got to dance at Lincoln Center in the final round, which was just so cool. And so I just still can't believe that. But that year, Jillian Murphy and Susan Jaffe were creating a scholarship to North Carolina School of the Arts, and they had spent years raising money for this scholarship. So I was the recipient of the Jillian Murphy Scholarship to UNCSA. So I was, at that point, I think I had just turned 15, or was turning 15, just turned 15. So I didn't, you know, it was tough because I didn't feel that I was necessarily like ready to leave Next Generation Ballet. But at the same time, it was an amazing experience. or like an amazing opportunity to go and work with Susan Jaffe. And so I went to UNCSA. And that was really cool because it was a high school program. Like, so it was the high school and dancing were intertwined. So like you go to school for like 2 hours, then go do ballet, and then go back to school, and then go back to rehearsal. So that was really wonderful, except I got injured right away. And that was my first like big injury. I slipped on the floor and was out for 8 months. So that was really yucky. But that kind of like rerouted my whole situation. And so by the time they needed to know about the following year, I still didn't know if I was going to need surgery. And it was a thing. So I went back to Next Generation Ballet again, to kind of like recover and take lower level classes. And that was really a wonderful year getting back for me. It was really hard. And that's, again, like going back and like recovering from injuries. It's a really tough process to deal with. And takes a lot of time, as you know, like working on getting your strength back, working on getting your flexibility back, even learning to walk again, which was definitely my case. But went back to Next Generation Ballet, and another really cool thing that they do there is that they do full-length ballets. And so previously, when I was 15, we did Sleeping Beauty, and I got to perform Aurora, which was just so special and such a wonderful experience. And I think that experience of performing a full-length ballet like that really carried me through my injured process, because I just remembered what that joy felt like and how accomplished you can feel when you take on something that big. So that joy kind of carried me through, because it was tough, dealing with not dancing. So the year I went back to Next Generation Ballet, we were doing Giselle in the spring, and Giselle is my absolute dream role. I love Giselle so much. And so when my teacher, Philip Neal, took over Next Generation Ballet, actually, Peter Stark went to direct Boston Ballet's men's program in second company, and Philip Neal from New York City Ballet came over to Next Generation Ballet. And he's fantastic. And he I remember after Nutcracker, I wasn't really allowed to do much in Nutcracker, or my doctor said, he was like, you can't be in any of the core stuff. You can't do Snow and Flowers. You can't like spend time in point shoes. So at the start of like Nutcracker season, I was like doing Grandma was my party, which is the
Grandma.
best. I loved Grandma. But I did a couple things in Nutcracker, like Spanish and Doll. But after our last show, Mr. Neal and Miss Yvonne, our other teacher, like, came up to a few of us, and they're like, "You're Giselle, you're Giselle, you're Giselle," and then like Albrecht, Albrecht, Albrecht. And so it was really,
Wow.
we're in the wings, and that was just like, I don't know, really insane for me, because less than a year before I was unable to walk. So that was really special and a really daunting experience, because that's like really emotionally in depth, Giselle is. So that was my spring at Next Generation Ballet. And then that summer I went to San Francisco Ballet School for the summer course. And from there got invited to stay year round, which also was kind of wild and a dream come true for me, because San Francisco Ballet was always like at, my top, when you think about like, oh my gosh, where do I want to go? And it's really hard. It's a really intense school and amazing school, but very difficult and demanding. And that was more of a French technique. So we trained with Tina LeBlanc and Sophie Anne Silve, and Tina went to CPYB. So that was a familiar technique, but her class was super, super, super hard. And I think before that, I didn't really do a lot of like difficult center point exercises. Like, I mean, I would do like a variation or do, perform Giselle or something like that. But I don't know, doing like center point ballet class and like, I don't know, kind of crazy pirouettes, turns and all secondes, stuff like that. We worked a lot on that kind of stuff during the year. And I felt like I got so much stronger, especially on point from that year. And then from that, I was in company in Charleston, South Carolina. It was a new company that started, American National Ballet. And then from that, I went into my first company audition season and got hired by Cincinnati Ballet as an apprentice. So it was my first ever company audition. And so
That's awesome.
it was kind of crazy. I wasn't really expecting a company contract. I was kind of going in the audition season thinking about like looking at trainees or second companies because I was 18 and I'd never done company audition before. And I knew at San Francisco, my class, I didn't audition for companies that year, but a lot of people in my class did, and that's what they were kind of doing. That's what they were targeting. So I just thought like, okay, well, I guess that's what you do. You target second companies, whatever. But I got that, which was awesome. My family and I lost our voices for 2 weeks because we screamed so much. And I got that. So then I went to New York for the spring because I had about 5 months until I had to start in Cincinnati. So I was like, I need to train. So I went to New York, got a work study at Steps on Broadway, trained with Willie Berman, my dear Willie Berman, and Elena Kunikova, and met McCall. And it was such a fun spring. It's just like one of my favorite times ever. Oh my gosh, so wonderful. And I met you, McCall, because you sent me an
best years ever.
It was so fun. And you sent me an Instagram message saying, could you be in my choreographic piece for Ailey? And so that was really great. I remember getting that message. I was like, oh my gosh, this girl saw me in class and she wants me to be in her piece. This is so cool. So that was so fun.
That was so fun.
I had, oh man, the best memories ever. It was amazing. So that was a wonderful time. And then from there, I moved to Cincinnati. And
what was it like in Cincinnati being such a young dancer in such a big company? Well, I don't know if it's like ginormous, but just like a big name.
We have 27 dancers in the main company and 12 in the second company, and they've got about 20 some trainees. So it was a lot. I mean, I'm used to being in large classes, and I think like at Steps, especially Willie Berman's class, really prepared me for that because it was just like company class every day. And like at Willie's class, you're dancing next to Alessandra Ferri and Isabelle Guerin and Marcelo Gomes and Rick Rowski. Like everyone comes in and it's just like another day, another superstar is standing right there next to you at bar and you're like, oh my gosh. So that kind of dynamic, that company class dynamic, I think was something that I really got adjusted to from taking class at Steps. But it was a lot. My very first piece I was in with Cincinnati Ballet, they start the year off with the New Works series, which is choreographers come in to set new pieces, and some dancers in the company get the opportunity to choreograph pieces as well. So my first piece that I was in, I was called to learn Miles Thatcher's new work. And they gave me 2 parts to learn, like a pas de deux part and this other like pas de trois kind of part. And So that was already a lot, like learning in the back. And it was contemporary. And I mean, we learned contemporary rep in San Francisco. We learned some McGregor, like worked on chroma and some like Wheeldens within the golden hour. But this was still different. And it's a lot to learn in the back. So I was in the back for about 5 weeks. And then the cast list came out and I had shows of this pas de trois part. Like, I've never done this before. I've never rehearsed this piece before.
I remember you were like, McCall, I'm getting my contemporary outfit ready. I'm getting baggy pants.
I'm ready. I'm like, I've got this. I'm like, I have my Brandy Melville shorts.
Yeah. It's like what ballet people think. They're like, contemporary shorts, baggier, leotard, but a different color, not pink.
And one of the things actually that really helped me for that, let me like backtrack for a second, was before I moved to Cincinnati, when I was still in New York, I went to the Complexions Summer Intensive. So when I was in Charleston, we did a joint gala with Complexions, and Desmond Richardson and Dwight Roden were so inspiring, really inspiring people, and said, like, anytime come to New York, take class with us. If you want to do one of our programs, you can do it. So I was like, I'm in New York, I can take one of their intensives. And that really kind of changed my idea of what contemporary was, and that it's not about what you think of yourself. I mean, as ballet dancers, you can be self-conscious and you're always analyzing like your movements and trying to make it this ideal of perfection. And it was very freeing because it was kind of like, it's up to you to not think about what do I look like in this moment, but really just give it your all. And that's one of the things that's so beautiful about Complexions, is because they say that everyone, instead of holding back to dance together, they all give it their everything they've got, and they meet somewhere out there, like just give it everything. So that helped me already a lot. So when I got to the back of the room, I was like, okay, I can move. But still, it was very daunting. Fortunately, guest ballet mistress, who was there helping with new works, was able to like help me. She scheduled rehearsals just for me, and we'd run the whole ballet with just me, which was really, really awkward at times, I must say. But I'm really thankful, because she was like, okay, Florrie, from the top by yourself. So my first time like doing this piece with everybody was the show. We like, for dress rehearsal, the people had just done it, so they like marked it with me. And then it was the show. So that was a lot, but we did it. It was really, 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 really fun. And I just felt so different because I never really performed something like that before. But it was fierce. So that was really lovely. And then after that, we kind of went into a little bit more classical. We did Septime's Septime Weber's Peter Pan. And I just had the time of my life as a pirate wench, just so happy and running around the stage. I watched the video later, and it's like, she is going for that like drink, whatever's in the pirate's bottle of whatever. That was fun. And it was a lot, but it was a really cool season. I think one of the things that was really awesome is that we do very contemporary and very classical. It's kind of was a balance that season. A major highlight for me was performing in Yuri Killian's Sextanza, which we did. Oh my gosh, it was so fun. That was at the end of the season, and looking at the season lineup, I was like, oh my goodness, they're doing a Yuri Killian piece. This is crazy. And my dad loves Yuri Killian and loves Netherlands Dance Theater. And I remember as a child growing up, my dad was always like, Netherlands Dance Theater, you should try to go to Netherlands Dance Theater. And I was like, I want to wear point shoes, like I'm gonna do ballet. But so he was so excited when I got cast in this piece. And the repetiteur for it, Shirley Esseboom, was from Netherlands Dance Theater, and she taught ballet class too. She had the most gorgeous, like technically perfection, classical turnout. Oh my God. I just can go on. It was just like perfect technique. But what's so cool is that everything is choreographed. So every expression, it's a very theatrical, comedic piece, and every wild expression is choreographed. So it was really a challenge, but once you kind of understand what they're asking you for and you get it, you can see, like, it's so much fun and just crazy. So the part I did was, there's a solo that's like really fast, and it was one of the things, because the whole ballet was difficult for me to find on YouTube. I did find an old Netherlands Dance Theater video, but that solo was one of the like things that was like a common excerpt of it. And I remember thinking, like, this is wild. They're like these fast fouette turns, and then these fast like crazy arm movements, and then there's this pas de trois with like a woman and her husband. The repetiteur said that it's like, this is your husband and you cheated on him, but you don't know if he knows that you cheated, and so you're really freaked out. And then there's this other man who's there, who I don't know if it's like the man that you cheated with, who's there kind of causing trouble. So you're very kind of freaked out. It's hilarious. It's a hilarious piece. But that was, so I was an apprentice then, and I got a call one day while I was at ballet from the company manager, and I was rehearsing, so I didn't see it. Or I think I got an email, the company manager saying, call me. So I called her, and I was like, what did I do wrong? Why does she want me to call her? And she was saying, well, Florrie, since you're an apprentice, you're not allowed to perform the part that you're performing in Sextanza because it's a solo part, like the principal part of it. And I was like, what? I didn't know that. And so I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like, I guess I'm not allowed to perform it. And they're like, so we're promoting you to next rank, to new dancer for the rest of the season so you can perform it. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it's crazy. But that was definitely a highlight of my first season. Yeah, it was really wonderful. Really such a crazy cool.
That's incredible.
Experience. So yeah, so I've been there for the past 2 seasons. I've really.
What would you say to someone who is going to be going into a company and maybe didn't have the experience at steps learning about company class, or has only been like a conservatory, so doesn't know how to handle professional life? Like, what's some advice you could give them?
So I think you just want to do your best to be self-sufficient. I think that's sometimes a very difficult thing. And I know that when I was growing up, I had teachers who told me that, like, when you're in a company, no one's going to tell you this. And, there are some teachers who will correct you, who will help you. But you have to very much be focused on yourself, and also focused on where you are in space. I think too is really important, that there are people who have been, like, I know for me, there were people in the company of Cincinnati Ballet who had been in the company since before I ever even began dancing. So, that's their world, and you have to respect the people around you. I know for me, it was like, oh my gosh, where do I stand at bar? Where's a bar spot? And I'm being aware of the groups that you're going in, making sure that, and it depends on your company environment. Some are more strict with their rankings and strict with how, like, principals are here, this, that kind of deal. So you just have to kind of gauge the dynamic. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Don't be afraid to just dance and enjoy it, and really learn quickly. I think that being focused and learning quickly is really important. Like learn every combination. Try to do as much as you can, and learn the choreography quickly. Pay attention to these little details that are offered. And like I would have teachers who said when I was like understudying a part, who would say, okay, well, once you know your part, learn the next part. Learn someone else, learn another part in the core, because you don't know what's going to happen, and it depends on your company's dynamic and the size of your company and whatever is happening. But I think having that knowledge of learning in the back and that ability to learn in the back, that helped me when I was just thrown right into that situation there. And that was a lot. Like at Cincinnati Ballet, I've really had lots of opportunities to learn parts. Like when we did Peter Pan right after New Works, my first season, I was learning every single female part except for Tiger Lily. But it was a lot, like, to be able to really kind of compartmentalize each section and think about it. And remember, don't be afraid to write things down, take notes, watch. If your company sends footage out, watch the Vimeos. We have a Vimeo account, so I'm like always going on the Vimeo to watch whatever it may be. Really pay attention, try to be a positive person, but be yourself. I think really don't feel pressure to behave a certain way, because in the end you are who you are, and this is a job and this is ballet, but you also want to be a good person and be your own person. So that's what I say, really be nice to everybody, be respectful to the rehearsal process, be respectful to your repetitors, your ballet masters, your director, but be nice too, and be engaging to whoever you talk to. Really being yourself. I think that's really important. And being self-sufficient. I think being self-sufficient is probably the number one, like knowing when you go into the rehearsal, remember the corrections, remember the details, remember the choreography was, like go over it if you need to. And don't be afraid to ask questions. That's another thing that I really learned with being in the company, is that you can ask a lot of questions. Like when a piece is being staged and you're unsure, it's better to ask a question sooner rather than later. And it's also better to ask a question to the repetiteur or the stager, instead of asking someone else. You can ask your friend, but then at a certain point it's going to be a guessing game down the line, because everyone's going to have their own version of what the choreography might be. And I've been in those kinds of situations, and at a certain point you can feel pressure as the younger dancer to just kind of put your hands in the air and be like, I don't know, and just give in and go with whatever. But I think really being a and asking questions. If you don't get it, if you don't understand, go and ask a question. Because like if they put the music on and you're just like, it's just bad. So that awareness, I think, is really a big deal. That's really a big deal. But yeah, it's a lot to adjust to, but it's so exciting to perform and to have that be your focus each day. When you're in school, I would always get so excited when it would get time, like get near a performance. If it was like, twice a year, 3 times a year, whatever it is for your school. It would always just be so exciting to me. I'm like, finally, I'm working towards something. You're working towards something every single day. I always think like every time you go into class is an opportunity to become a better dancer. But when you're in a school, sometimes you feel like that if your main love and the reason you dance is because you love performing. When you get those opportunities to perform, there's nothing better. So thinking like every month or whenever what your season looks like, how it's scheduled, having those opportunities. Like I just love being so tired, but being like, I did dress rehearsal and I have opening night tonight.
Yes.
It's the best feeling ever. It's so exciting, and that like adrenaline rush. It's so cool. I mean, there were a lot of new kinds of pieces this year. I was really looking forward to our last piece of the season was -16. The Ohad Naharin's -16, and I was so excited that Gaga training. But here we are. So, but I was looking forward to that a lot. But sorry, swallowed the wrong way. Yeah, I mean, you just have to really be open to whatever a choreographer wants.
That's a wrap on our first ever episode of Dancer Talks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe because we'll have a new episode every week. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and on the new platform Ballet Project TV, which will be streaming our episodes and more bonus content. Thanks for watching. Bye!